The Phoenix Suns are frightful, and watching them ain't delightful. But since we have no place to go, we'll watch that show, watch that show, watch that show. Oh, the defense doesn't show signs of stopping, and three-pointers are a poppin'. Why the fuck can't we play defense? And tonight we only scored 90 points. Welcome to the Suns Jam Session Podcast, the original post-game podcast on Planet Purple. My name is John Voida, managing editor, brightsideofthesun.com. And here are you, an avid fan of the Phoenix Suns. You want to know why I know that? Because you're watching this right now live or later, or you're listening at another time. Because you care about this team, because you love this team, because purple and orange, for some weird reason, are two colors that you identify with, that sparks the passion in your sports fandom world. Yet, unfortunately, the Phoenix Suns, the team that you love and support, just continually lets you down. And tonight, they did that again. And raise your hand if you were surprised. I don't think any of us really were. The team that started 8-1, long gone. This is a 500 ball club. 14-14 on the year are the Phoenix Suns. That's right. They've gone 6-13 in their last 19 games. And they are who they are. A team that can't get out of their own way. A team that can't defend. A team that can't stop anybody. And when their cold stretches happen, guess what? They lose. They gave up 45 points in the third quarter, Jamsters. 45. That's half of their total point total tonight. It just continually confounds. But you know what? We have each other. That's what we're here for. We're here to hang out with you, to talk to you, to converse with you, and talk about this game that we love and this team that we love and sometimes love to hate. So thank you for joining the Suns Jam Session Podcast, whether you're watching along live or watching later or listening at a different time. Appreciate you. Truly do. Truly appreciate the fact that you tune in and interact with us and listen to the words we have to say to try to go through this canyon that has become this season. If you'd like to, leave a like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts and you'd like to click 5 stars and write a little review, I appreciate it. It helps with the schematics and the analytics, and it points other miserable Suns fans to the Suns Jam Session Podcast so they can come hang out with you and myself after each and every Phoenix Suns game. So crack them if you got them, Suns fans. Matthew will be joining the show here in a little bit. And let's talk about this one. Hear ye, the Phoenix Suns lose again. Lose again. Gave up 100 points in 3 quarters, while themselves only scoring a total of 90 points in this one. 90 points. Embarrassing. Gross. Is this a basketball team? You know, I was thinking about this recently as I was preparing for this holiday season, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there as you prepare, this week. Hopefully some of you have some time off from work. Hopefully you're spending time with your loved ones. Unfortunately, you're watching the Phoenix Suns, and just don't let the grumpiness that you're feeling, don't take it out on your family. Okay. Like just don't, like, you know what it is, right? Like, you're a Suns fan. Don't be upset. Don't take it out on the kids. Okay. But one of the things I was thinking about is this is the first Christmas without Dave King, who is the managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun, and Dave King's Bright Side Night is just around the corner. It's January 9th against the Hawks. And we're kind of doing the final push right now, asking for donations. If you have $15 and you want to donate, just go to suns.com slash bright side, $15 sends a kid to a game. But I was thinking about my buddy Dave, who we famously use his drop, which is something I know he probably didn't like too much, but I was thinking about him a lot. And I was thinking, how did he cover the team when he did the way he did? Because Dave King was the managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun for about, I think, 13 years. And it was during the 13 shittiest years of the Suns, like the decade without playoffs. Dave King was the managing editor during all of that. So like 2010, the back end of 10, he took over. So I think his first season, they went to the playoffs. That was that fun team that had Grant Hill and I think Shaq was still on the team. I don't even remember, but they made a run of the playoffs. The Ron Artest play, need I say more? But then he covered this team for a decade. And it was a decade of shit. And I was trying to think, as I'm continually writing articles every day about this team on Bright Side of the Sun, trying to process in real time what this team is, trying to just understand in his mindset how he did it. Because back then, the team was bad, but they also, I think the difference between now and then is back then you wanted the team to be good and you got excited when they competed. And when they lost games, it's like, shucks, man. Well, fuck, they really tried in this one. This was a tough game. This was tough competition. But you know what? They tried. And one day they'll learn how to win. But you applauded the effort. There was no expectations with those teams back in 15 and 16 and 17 and 18. There was no expectation. There was only hope. There was, hey, let's keep fighting, but man, we got to turn a corner. And where we're at right now with this Phoenix Suns team is the exact opposite, because there is all the expectation in the world for this team. And to see them struggle and play average basketball at best, average basketball, it's confounding. It's frustrating. It's comical. Like, it's laughable. It's one of the reasons why you never say anything to anybody as a Phoenix Suns fan in any sort of puff your chest out manner, because you have no reason to. A lot of us are going to be spending time with our families over this next week. Matthew's running a little bit late. We were all down at Schnepp Farms tonight. I don't know if any of you've been down to Schnepp Farms. Way the fuck out there in Queen Creek. It's an hour drive one way from my house. But my nephew's in town, nephew Hayden, who we've talked about a few times on the show. So we took the whole family down there and we just walked up and down the thing. There's lights and hot cocoa, and I had a pretzel with fucking hot Cheetos on it. That's something I'll be paying for later. But we're going to be spending time with those that we love. And there's one thing that the majority of people are going to be doing, and they're going to be asking us, because a lot of casual fans, they don't watch the Suns like we do, us crazy people. Every person who's commenting in the chat or watching live, like, our families aren't as fucking nuts in the head as we are, but they know that we are, right? They know that you're a Suns fan, and I'm a Suns fan, and they're going to ask you, like, what's up with the Suns this year? Now, some of them don't know exactly what's going on. Some of them might have casually heard that the Suns aren't playing as well as they should be. And the one recommendation I have, as you try to not lose your shit on your family when the Phoenix Suns questions come up around the dinner table, just say 2 words. Just say 2 words. Say, just watch. Like, what do you mean, Uncle John? Yeah, just watch. Watch this week. You're off this week, or you're around family. There's some games this week, right? We play the Nuggets on Christmas, 8:30 game. Then we play on Friday night. We welcome Luka Doncic to town. And then the next night we're playing Golden State Warriors in Golden State, right? So there's like 3 games coming up this week. If your family's asking, just tell them to watch. Like, after you're done watching, give me a call. Because you can't explain how shitty this team is without context. You need to have people watch this team, as we all have, right? As we're watching this team and we're noticing that there's just things that are unbelievably wrong with this team. And offensively, they're not a horrible team. They have talent. We all know that. Now, obviously, Devin Booker didn't play tonight. That's unfortunate, right? Didn't get a chance to play. Groin issue. Don't know if he's going to be back in the next game. knowing that this team is typically going to side on caution as they've showcased thus far this season, that they're going to take their time to get their stars back. But they're other than the All-Star break in February, they're out of those little nice uh 5 days off things that the NBA Cup provided. So he's going to be missing some games. But you look at how they played tonight, 39% from beyond the arc. Yeah, that's the Suns, man. They can shoot from deep. That's what they do this year. But in typical fashion, 15 turnovers, 18 points off turnovers, 11 points in the fourth. 11 points in the fourth by this team. Offense is supposed to be our best defense, isn't it? I mean, isn't that am I right? Am I wrong? We scored 90 points tonight. We lost by 27 points. It's like Creepy Crawly says in the chat, that score doesn't look right because it says 117-90. But that's the final score of this game. This is the Phoenix Suns, man. 90 points? Yeah, Creepy's like 90? The Suns scored 90 points? Yeah. Yeah. Because the Suns, for better or worse, are a team that just is made to disappoint. And I'm slowly starting to hit that point of acceptance, right? It took a long time last year to hit acceptance as a Suns fan, I feel, because we can never get our foot out of the mud. And remember last season, gosh, I don't remember if we were 14-14 at this point. I'm going to look this up real quick, but I'm almost 100% sure that through 28 games last year, we had the same record. Through 28 last year, we were 14-14. In fact, we went 14-15 because on Christmas we lost to the Dallas Mavericks. So we have the same exact record we did this time last year. But last year, we were waiting for this team to get out of the mud, right? Because Bradley Beal had been injured so much. And because the fourth quarter collapses were starting to become a thing. And there was still hope. And it took a long time to truly accept that this team just wasn't it. And once you got over that, and like I remember saying that on the podcast time and again, once you got to the point of acceptance that this team isn't it, it made watching them a little bit more enjoyable because you're like, well, we're on year 1 of 2 with this Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker thing, right? Because we knew that Kevin Durant's contract's up at the end of the 24-25 season, the season that we're in. And we knew that they were going to try this little experiment. If not, there was a potential to blow it up. But here we are a year later, and we're 14-14 again. And the injuries have existed, but it's the third quarter blow-ups that this team just continually has. Third quarter in this game, outscored 45-28. 45-28. The Denver Nuggets shot 7 for 11 from beyond the arc. That's a 63.6 percentage. In the total quarter, they were 18 of 26, 69% from the field. 18-26. The Suns didn't have a horrible quarter. They were 6 of 12 from beyond the arc. They were 10 of 24 from the field. They scored 28 points. But they are a fucking turnstile on defense right now. Any team can do anything they want at any time. Therein lies the challenge with the Suns. Yusuf Nurkic got in some early foul trouble. He had 3 fouls in the first half. Nikola Jokic in the third quarter knew that. So instantly, first few possessions just started attacking on the interior, knowing that Nurkic isn't going to go for that foul in theory, and scored 13 points, 6 of 7 from the field. Too easy. Russell Westbrook had 9. Michael Porter had 7. You had 8 from Aaron Gordon, a 3 from Julian Strother. They went inside, they went outside. They attacked the interior, so the Suns start collapsing in wide open threes, and they knock them down. To their credit, they knock them down. But something's got to change. Something's got to be shaken up with this team. what we're witnessing right now, it ain't right for a team that's the most expensive team in the history of basketball. The history. It's just it's at this point where there is no answer outside of movement. And Matthew wrote a great piece for Bright Side of the Sun talking about, if the Jimmy Butler thing is real, which reports are coming out today that Miami definitely does not want Bradley Beal. No shit. Nobody wants Bradley Beal. But if the Suns could somehow, as I've mentioned in the past, pull off a trade with like the Chicago Bulls, a 3-team trade, and reports are coming internally that there is something in there that the Suns can pull the trigger on. It needs to happen. Like, why wait? Why wait to try to develop chemistry? Why wait to get to a point where you can officially go, you know what? I just don't think it's working. But in the meantime, you're sacrificing a month of average basketball in hopes that a move works, in hopes that chemistry can exist post a trade. If you have an opportunity to make a trade, you need to get on those phones right now, because this team built as is proving that they're average. And if you're going to say injuries, oh man, well, Devin Booker was out tonight. They still have $100 million plus in payroll out there. There's something wrong if Kevin Durant has to be out there, or Devin Booker has to be out there, or Bradley Beal has to be out there. There's something wrong with that. Now, the Suns are now 0-2 without Devin Booker. Just letting you know, was it 1-9 without Kevin Durant, 0-2 without Devin Booker? Ridiculous, isn't it? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Joshua Ross in the chat. And again, thank you everybody who's watching along live. We don't have a team leader. That's correct. We don't. We've got some great talent. And you've heard me say this before, and I'll continue to say it. Talent without leadership is wasted talent. And we don't have leadership right now. We don't have on-court leadership. You have such great basketball egos and such reverence for people like Kevin Durant. It prevents you from actually holding people accountable. But it's the defensive end where I just like it's hysterical to watch on defense, man. It's absolutely hysterical to me to see this team try to execute on defense. Just time and again. They can't stop anybody. They can't. Oh shit, there's a black screen there. Hey, it's Matthew.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, did you catch any of this game? 90
No, I
points.
did not. No. How much did you catch up? Actually, no, I was dropping Emma off at her boyfriend's and I caught the last minute.
Oh, that doesn't matter. Did they? Oh, they scored 1 point in the last minute. What
Sorry, I'm all trying to get set up here.
what was your favorite part of Schnapp's Farms?
Waiting in line, I think.
It's nice when it's not cold.
Yeah, it is nice because I remember last year we are freezing our butts off and waiting in
Yeah,
line. So this time I was just waiting in line and sitting there staring and standing and trying to just be so awkward. What was your
yeah.
favorite part?
I don't know. I had that pretzel with
Mhm.
hot Cheetos on it, but what you missed is we had a
Yeah.
Parmesan pretzel before that, and that was delicious. The pretzels were pretty good.
Oh,
So
yeah,
so
I didn't get
here's
to eat too much either. What's up?
here's a fun topic. So Creepy Crawly says in the chat, they smoking too much of that weed.
Hmm.
Are we at the point, Keith Nettles, the devil's lettuce? Are we at the point where we're blaming the Phoenix Suns for being such potheads that's why they must suck?
We're trying to find every way possible to blame this team for it, whatever's going on. Because obviously, what the team is doing right now is trying to search for some identity outside of Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. And then it's like, well, no one's really helping them in the last two games, it was looking like. And then whenever you have Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, you think like, hey, you can win these games, and they're just not doing enough. They're not enough on both ends of the floor to kind of contain these teams and come out maybe with a victory, but just make it kind of a little bit closer than the way these games have been going. I was thinking about the whole 2 years ago when Booker got hurt, he was out 21 games. And Mikal
Yep.
Bridges just really he was so upset. I think they lost like 5 or 6 games in a row. And I remember his post game locker room, his press conference, and he was just sitting there. He's just like, "We just got to win," and he looked really, really upset. Like he really, truly meant it, and you could feel it from him. I just don't feel it from this team in those post game press conferences. You don't really see it either, obviously. But then I remember then they started to win more games without Devin Booker. And it was like before the trade happened, Mikal Bridges was like, "Oh, I'm so excited for everyone to come back. We're gonna get rolling." And he gets traded because they got back and they were playing pretty decent. It took a while until they went away from DeAndre Ayton. So I'm like looking for some signs. Obviously, I didn't really see tonight's game, but just being down by 20 in the third quarter again, it's like same thing as last game.
Yeah, it was. I listened to it on the drive home, caught the second half, and I instantly just watched them just get boat raced. I mean, they gave up a 45 spot in the third. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Ken Kaplan in the chat says Booker used to get pissed at losses and lack of effort. Now, have you seen his new shoe? It's a
It is
funny way to put
strange,
it.
huh?
Uh,
It's a different book.
it, it it is, and it's something that I actually tweeted something out like that a couple days ago. It was really interesting to see the responses. I said, Sean Marion used to be my favorite Phoenix Sun until CP3 influenced Booker. KD influenced Booker, not so much. And the Booker people came at me. Some Booker people came
Yeah.
at me and we're saying, how dare you? He's been in the league for 10 years. And some people are like, uh, the KD stands came at me like, "Oh, you're blaming KD." I'm like, "No, if you read the tweet, I'm actually
Yeah.
blaming Booker for being so easily influenced by the players around him, for not being that strong leader, for not developing that alpha gene after being somebody who this franchise has relied on." And I'm with you, and I'm with what Creepy Crawly was saying, whether it was said in jest or not, that we are searching to try to. I think we're just trying to understand why. Why is this team so lackadaisical?
Yeah.
Why is this team a turnstile on defense? Why do
Yeah.
they continually give up 40 plus points? I mean, they gave up a 41-point quarter against the Detroit Pistons in the first quarter last game. They give up 45 in the third here. Why do they continually get in their own way? Is it a lack of focus? Is it a lack of leadership? Is it bad coaching? Do they need Jimmy Butler? Like, we don't know what it is. Now, I did say this to the Jamsters earlier, so they already know the answer. But I'm gonna hit you with a little trivia
You
time.
know what time it is.
Trivia time.
Be quiet, Jamsters. Don't tell Matthew the answer. 28 games down. The Phoenix Suns are now 14-14. What was their record through 28 games last year?
16 and 12.
Nope, they were 14-14.
14-14. Okay. I
You
was gonna say
know,
that first, but it was just too obvious. So
but this is different though, right? This feels like different because last year we were trying to get out of the mud and we were trying to, once Bradley Beal's back and we're at full strength, yada yada. But now,
yeah.
even though we have a different cast of sub characters, we have the same three main characters, and this is just like a shitty sequel, man. This is like watching Grease 2. There's motorcycles, Michelle Pfeiffer's there, and it's not very good.
um so last year you kind of noticed things, but we were just hoping and we saw a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel because we're like, well, if we get to the playoffs, that was always the thing. But it's like, being in a terrible relationship the first time and going through it, ending it, and then the second time you're in another relationship, you start to see the same things again, kind of come up. You're like, oh shit, it's happening again. Like, do I need to get out of this one? Is she the same kind of person? Do I need help? Do I need therapy? But we're seeing the same exact bad influences, bad effects from last year, the same exact stuff. So we're now like, I'm not throwing Flex underneath the bus or anything, but he's saying like, you can't blame the players. We got to take a look at the coaching staff. It's like, if we end up doing that, then I'm just like done. Like if we go to the coaches, I'm totally done because this is on the big three. It totally is. They have to figure this shit out because there's been so many players in and out of this team, new coaching staff. It's on them. But going back to like even the interviews that kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. Like last year when Devin Booker, media day, like he talked about, I live a great life. I have to keep this up to have the life I have outside of basketball. He had those comments, and then basically he was sorry, I got a text.
Oh,
Basically, he was saying that um, you know, post game, one game, he's just like, oh no, it was a shoot around, sorry, interview he had. And he was talking about, he's like, I have a great life. I wake up every day. I just know that, I'm enjoying my time here. I feel like when you start hearing interviews like that, where the player reflects on his life and how fucking great it is, and he's not talking about the basketball, it's like, we know you live a great life. We don't fucking care, right? We want to win a championship. I don't care how many fucking boobs you had at your house walking around or whatever. Like, what is, well, I don't know. Like, what, why do we want to know about how great his life is? It makes no sense to me. I don't care who you're dating. I don't care about your shoes. I don't care about any of that. I care about, like, how are you going to fix this? Are you going to tell us like something that's actually going to convince us? Or are you just going to keep talking about, you know what? I live a great life. I love the fact that I wake up every day and I live the life I live. It's like, we don't care about that shit. We're not living your life. We don't want to hear about it. We just want wins. So when I start to hear that, I do get worried. And I know it's probably reading
Yeah.
too much into it, but I do get worried.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you're mentioned by what Flex said. He tweeted something out along those lines where it's like, hey, at some point you're gonna have to start to look at the schematic issues and look at the coaching. And he's not the only one to say that. Obviously, I write a lot of articles for Brightside, and some of the readers are making those comments as well, where they're like, well, like, is it the coach? But to your point, given the fact that the assets primarily remain the same, this team, one of the reasons we have such high expectations for it entering the season is the continuity exists. That was my whole thing this offseason. We're going to be better because continuity exists. We're not doing what we did last year. It's
Yeah.
not Grease 1 where everyone's showing up to school at the first day and getting to know Sandy. Like, people, we know the characters. We've seen the characters play out. We've seen pros and cons. We just kind of chalked it up to, okay, they couldn't get healthy. They didn't have the chemistry. But guess what? The chemistry returns this season. The ancillary pieces that were added complement the roster appropriately. This should be a great season. So I don't agree with the fact that it's the coaching. I think that it's
Yeah.
the fight of the dog out there, and it's non-existent. And to your point, when you're starting to hear players casually mention, it's like, hey man, I just got to do what I got to do to continue to get paid because my life's great. It kind of sounds like, from a motivational standpoint, that their motivation isn't to go out and win. Their motivation is to be just good enough to continue to get paid. And that's never a
Yeah.
good thing. That's just the guy who doesn't ever get promoted at work, and he's just sitting there, but he's happy as shit to be there because he's collecting a check. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's not a direction you want to go into.
No,
I
it's,
go ahead.
oh well, I think Kevin Durant coming in here. So there's different ways to look at it, right? You kind of think about like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what are you going to hear about? I always like to think about that. What are you going to hear
Yeah,
about this team from behind the scenes? Like when that trade happened, get Kevin Durant. Is that something that Booker was on board? Because I always remember just how he looked the following games because he was hurt. And after that trade went down, he looked rough. He looked like he hasn't showered. He didn't shower for days. He looked like he didn't trim his beard for a while.
didn't
And they were all
shave.
upset and stuff. So you have to look at it this way too. Like Kevin Durant wanted to go to Phoenix. Do you think Booker was okay with that? Of course he wanted to play with Kevin Durant, probably, but was he just really feeling the team they had, right? And maybe that was just a big blow. Now that he has Kevin Durant on this team, and he realizes that Kevin Durant's just make or miss guy. We're gonna ball. We're gonna we're gonna he. Don't get me wrong. Kevin Durant puts up the effort, but it's just like, does he just realize like they're not gonna win? Does he just know like, hey, this is not gonna work? So I'm enjoying my life. I'm enjoying just everything right now because I can't stress about it. Because he knows deep down, he's like, this is not good enough to win out west. Like, so is that why he's just chill?
If that's the
Because
case,
really,
that
really, he's
sucks.
frustrated, but he can't. Then he can't do anything to fix his team, right? He can't do
Yeah, he can
anything.
play better.
Yeah,
He can play better. I think that that's what matters. If he can play better, he has the control. Okay, so if
yeah,
he's playing better, then good things can happen. But if he's resigned to the fate, like we all are starting to be, then we're all fucked. Hitting
yeah,
a couple comments here. Juan Carlos in the chat. He says, "I hate me for loving the Suns. My wife hates me for loving the Suns. After games like today, I tend to ask myself if all the effort following the Suns is worth it." I'm right there with you, Juan Carlos. Trust me. I
yeah,
write about the Suns. I podcast about the Suns. I question it too. Saul says they are not a team, but a collection of players. They don't play for each
hmm,
other. There's no joy. Yes,
that's it.
some
Again,
that's it. It sounds stupid when you go, man. I just wish there was some goofy celebrations after pointers are made or some pregame dancing. None of that really wins games, but it showcases a connectivity and a chemistry and guys who are going to fight for each other. Look at the fucking Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic lost
yeah,
Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner and Mo Wagner just went out for the season with ACL injury. They're down 22
Yes.
points with like 6 minutes left against Miami on Saturday, Friday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday. They come back and win. They beat Boston tonight. That's a team. That's a culture. Those are fighters. Suns aren't fighters. They're mercenaries.
No.
They're mercenaries who coming in like, well, if I just hit a few threes, I'll be okay. Let's
And
see. Go
the
ahead.
whole trade thing too, I'm not gonna talk about, like, whether I want it or not, but I think that plays effect into, um it's a big aspect to where these guys are definitely affected by it. I think that Beal knows, and, if you're gonna commit to what you have, having that stuff leaked about Beal or Butler even coming here or him talking to Ishbia, like, that's big. It's like, why care? Why fight? Why wanna play this team? And this is not who we were gonna have by trade deadline, so I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah, we'll see how they just how the Suns are going to respond. That's my thing
Yeah,
because
it's tough.
guess what? Christmas Day is 2 days away, and that's a national audience. And if they put up 90 points against them again, Matt Ishbia, he's got to go and talk with all his buddies at Christmas time. He's got to see the family, and they're like, "Hey, hey, Matty," his brother Justin's
Yeah.
gonna give him a noogie and be like, "You have a shitty team, and you're spending way too much money for it." So we'll see, we'll see.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's the thing too. Matt Ishbia has to realize, like, when he just knows that he made a mistake and when to blow this up in a way. And the whole talk of, like, blowing it up is always surrounded around Bradley Beal or even Kevin Durant. But it's getting to the point where you have to mention Booker and how this thing's gonna pan out. Because if things are gonna turn around where we're gonna sell these guys, high and get some draft picks back, like, Booker's not gonna want that either. So you'll have to kind of capitalize on what Booker's gonna offer. That's gonna be a very dark day here in Phoenix, but
yeah,
when's he gonna realize, like, hey, that might have to happen sooner or later because we can't have Book as our number one guy here in Phoenix anymore. Like, we have to find something else. So I don't know. There's a lot going on right now, but
yeah,
um,
and and part of the conversation is having that conversation with Devin Booker. We're like, listen, we're going to blow this thing up. We're going to try to
yeah.
restart. We're going to try to get some of our draft capital back because we went to the craps table. Matt Ishbia showed up at the craps table, and he gambled, and so far he's losing with that gamble. I mean, 49 wins last year, swept out of the playoffs, and now a 500 team. It's not looking good thus far, and he probably wants to give it more time, get to that trade deadline to make that decision on whether or not to blow it up. But if that is the case, yeah, ownership needs to have a conversation with Devin
Mhm.
Booker and be like, listen, if we're gonna blow this up, do you want to be part of it or not? Because if not, like we'll sell you too, and we'll make you happy, and we'll send you a place you want to go, and yada yada yada. But that
Yeah.
day, what sucks is it's like the doomsday countdown,
Mhm.
right? There's a
Yeah, it
doomsday
is.
countdown that you can go online and you can watch it. It's showing you how close we get to doomsday. And for the Suns, like doomsday is approaching. And every time you have bad showings like this, it just get the clock it clicks one more closer, one more closer, one more closer. And it's going to be interesting to see how close we get to actually blowing this thing up because it's just not working. It simply is not working. This team has looked lost all season long. Even when we
Yeah.
started 8-1, those were narrow wins with Kevin Durant pulling magic out of his ass in the last minute of games for us to simply get to that point. So it's not like this team's been dominating in any factor. They're just ho hum Suns, man.
And what is a team? I mean, if you can go back, like, is there a team that really has, put everything in, put all their chips in on these vets that you're paying a lot of money to, and has it worked out to really just, the end just being a championship? Like, when's the last time this has really worked to where you've had these guys just come in and it's just gonna work in 1 or 2 seasons and they win a championship? Like, what, like, I'm just,
Like the
it
Heat
doesn't
with
work
LeBron
there.
James.
But that took, they still lost even with
Oh
that
yeah, their
team, the
their
first
first their
finals.
first season they lost, and
So
then they won the next two, and then
that's what
lost.
I'm saying. So, like, when is this ever working? Like, so if they blow it up and Kevin Durant goes somewhere else and Bradley Beal does somehow, or Booker, it's like Booker would go to a team obviously to contribute, but like what team is looking like, oh, we need Kevin Durant to win a championship? If we
Oh,
have Kevin Durant,
lots of
we'll win.
teams. Golden
You think
State.
so?
Golden State.
You think? Okay.
Because Golden State has what the Phoenix Suns don't have around Kevin Durant, and that's dogs that'll play defense. You got elite
Yeah.
scores
True.
in
Yeah.
Steph Curry and potentially in Kevin Durant, and then you got young guys coupled with Draymond Green, and they fight on the
Yeah.
defensive end. That's the challenge with this Suns team. Like Kevin Durant wants to go out there and just hoop, and when he's being relied on to be the best defender on the team, it's not going to work. And we don't have the dogs. We don't have the fight. And even the guys who possess it, right? Like Royce O'Neal has a little bit in it. Josh Okogie has some, but they're probably dog tired from being the only guys out there playing, giving a shit. They're rotating or they're rotating to help deficiencies, and guys aren't doing the same to help them. And after a while, you just stop trying as hard because the guys around you aren't playing as hard. And you're right. Like 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be interesting to hear some of these players when they're on their podcast, right? When Damian Lee's 45 years old and he's talking on some podcast about
Yeah.
playing on the Suns and what the locker room was like, that's going to be highly entertaining because this iteration of the Suns team is crashing and burning before our eyes. And we not one person has told me any plausible way out, plausible way that actually can happen with this team. We all have hopes. It comes down to the defensive end, but it simply doesn't happen.
Yeah, and they're a really hot start at 8-1, and then after that the injuries happened, and they just haven't been able to come back and just be that same team. I know injuries has happened to Bill and now Booker, but to have Kevin Durant play that great early on and not able to carry this team to the victories or just keep the games close, it's scary because it just shows like we talk about the mental weakness. So it's like if they're losing 3 or 4 games in a row and the fan base is all out to get them and everyone's kind of criticizing them and stuff like that, I don't know how much that affects this team. Like you saw it last year when Grayson Allen talked about like, hey, can you guys just support us instead of booing us? Like it's just one of those things like so if
Give
they
us
get
a
down in the
reason to
dumps,
support you.
yeah, it's like if they're down in the dumps, they're on a losing streak, like they just want us to cheer them on. It's like we are, but like they can't be that mentally like weak to where they just totally collapse. And when what are they 6-15 now since the 8-1 start?
6-13.
Sorry, six
And
and
they're
thirteen. Sorry,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah,
they have to look inward. They have to find it inward. And there's a saying I've always liked to say. I have a poster of it in my office. Champions adjust, and they adjust to adversity. And sometimes it's external, sometimes it's internal. But you have to adjust if
yeah,
you want to be a champion. You're not a champion just by showing up every day and being more talented.
and
Real
just been
quick,
living a great life,
yeah, yeah,
a
exactly.
lavish life.
Let's hear what Mike Budenholzer had to say after the game. This is courtesy of Dwayne Rankin.
Helpful just to get over this loss or use this loss to help for Wednesday night?
I mean, one of the great things in the NBA is there's always another game coming shortly after whether you play well or you play poorly. You got to get ready for the next one, and hopefully there'll be some fuel, some motivation from this. But you should have it every night.
When you look at Denver and what they were able to get to in terms of the drive, Michael Porter, I thought early, not only was shooting it,
Is this
but he
fucking
was
up for
getting
you
to
too, or is it just
the
me?
basket, which something he doesn't normally do.
No, I'm good.
What's the frustration with that? Okay, we can't allow threes and guys get into that basket.
Yeah, no, Michael Porter was good tonight. His movement off the ball. He got a couple of shots in that environment. Then it felt like we tried to track him closer, get him off the 3-point line. He was able to finish around the paint. Got us on a cut. He played well. His movement, his activity, the force that he played with, had a big positive impact for them.
All right. I think was the video fucking up for you?
No, not at all. He didn't really say anything other than like, the next game it comes close. But also it's like the fight and stuff. Hopefully his next game, but it should be there tonight. I think Budenholzer obviously is holding him accountable, but
Like Suns
What's he
Fever
supposed to do?
83 says in the chat, oh, good. There are other games coming up. That's a reassuring point. My point in playing that is it shows the lack of energy. Like, Budenholzer should be pissed at his team. He should come out and be like, this is unacceptable. Like, the way that we're playing defense is unacceptable. We work on it, we try, and yet we're giving up 45 points in a quarter on the regular basis. We need to look inside and try to figure this out. I think that that's what we want. Now, I'm not saying we're blaming Budenholzer for the issues. I'm not saying fire Budenholzer, just like I wasn't saying fire Frank last year. I think it comes from the players. The players are the ones on the court. They're the ones who are being lackadaisical. They're the ones who are not connecting. They're the ones who are not rotating. They're the ones who are not helping each other. They're the ones who are not picking up half court or full court or doing anything to try to deter the defense. And ultimately, it comes down to the players and the way they play. But some coaching is involved. It's collective bullshit that we're watching night in, night out.
And I understand holding them accountable. It's something there, but the fact that it is night in and night out, and coming into this game, after losing the last game we did the way we did, I was like, "There's no way they're gonna do it again." Because like honestly, like it was close after the half or at halftime, but then all of a sudden it was a 20-point lead by the Nuggets, and it's like the effort obviously isn't there, but the way that this team is going about it and just like how there's no one really being held accountable, and the fact that it's like, well, I would love to hear what Budenholzer says and what he's actually thinking for real, because he has to know who it is, what it is on the court that's like really letting these players down. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's not enough that we have, but no one's gonna save us. No one's gonna give up Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna do that to help our team out. Like we're screwed. We're in a very bad place right now. The NBA is not going to help us out of. And
Yeah, we're not the Lakers.
yeah, exactly. Like nothing's going to happen. So he obviously can't be too vocal about the players that maybe are just letting the team down or anything like that, because there's no leverage. We have nothing to where these guys can be traded or moved on, so he has to be okay with it, I think, for now, right? Because otherwise, in the state the Suns are in, I feel like maybe a coach would say something about somebody. I know JJ Redick probably would, but
Yeah.
Budenholzer can't.
No, and he's not going to. Well, it's a dark state of the Suns right now as we prepare for the Christmas game at 8:30 on Christmas Day. Thank you to everyone who's watched us. We're not doing a Jam Star. There's no subreddit stakeout. Again, we're at Schnepp's Farms, and I just, I fuck the Suns. Fuck them right now, man. It's where I'm at. I do not look forward to watching Suns basketball right now because it's wash, rinse, repeat. But it's not going to stop us from coming here and bitching to you guys and letting and having a place for you to come and bitch because it's a good way to vet it. And it's just like I was saying earlier in the podcast before you joined, Matthew. This time of year where you're going to see your family and they're going to ask you how the Suns are doing because they know that you care about the Suns. And my response to anybody who asks is just watch them this week. Watch them play Denver. Watch them on Friday when they play Dallas. Watch them on Saturday when they play the Warriors. After watching those 3 games, call me, and then we can talk about it because I want you to see it first before I just completely blast them to you. I don't want to just come off like, they're fucking idiots. Like, whoa, dude, maybe you're an idiot. Settle down. I was like, no, watch what I'm consuming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't tell them to watch the games. I tell them to go watch TMZ highlights of Devin Booker and his life and how lavish it is, and then you'll feel a lot better about yourself somehow.
And then I let them know when his next shoe is coming out, and then it's all gravy,
and
baby.
how ugly it is. Okay, yeah, I'm so sick of those shoes.
Yeah, well, I am looking forward to the Forrest Gumps, but those are the only ones. It's like if it's like 12 shoes he's released, I like 2 thus far. So, but on that note, Jamsters, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. It's 11 o'clock, and I still want to get like an hour of GTA 5 in. I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 5.
Baby. Yeah, get it, man.
I'm go take out my feelings on the people of
prostitutes
of Los Santos. But we'll be live on Christmas. I think we'll see how it works out. Remember, subscribe, rate, review if you want to. If you don't have the effort to, it's okay. I see a lot of effort not occurring every time I watch the Sun, so I completely understand it. So until potentially Wednesday, take care, everybody.
Yeah. Have a go home, Lord family.